Okay. Want to welcome everybody to the Blackie and African Roots Revival. I will point out that we did get 150 tickets booked, so I'm hoping they're just going to be a little bit late. Just to let you know, African Roots Revival it's the first one which is going to lead up to the 60th year of the Blackie. We're 60 in 2027. So this is going to gain momentum. So you guys are really lucky to be here right at the first one. Yeah, I'm going to hand over to Karen because wonderful Karen has done all of our organising and I've never been more grateful. She's a star. So I'm going to hand over.
Thank you. Hello. Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. I was asked about 8 weeks ago if I could come in and organise this event on behalf of the Blackie. And I've been out of dance for a little while, so it took quite a bit to bring me back. But the key things that brought me back was obviously my passion for dance, my passion for Black creatives in the city and beyond. But also, I started my career here. And although some people may not think I do love the Blackie very much. And I think when I was 14, I came here and Bill had brought in a dancer called Hoffman Soto from San Francisco. And I was able to really experience what creativity was in dance. I was able to experience what sighted work was, even before it was a thing. We're talking the 70s, so I was performing all over the region. So it's a way of coming home. And the theme, the overarching theme that we've used for these 2 days is belonging. So it's trying to find a sense of who we are. Where is our place creatively? What are we producing? Where are our homes? How do we begin to really encourage people to come back to the Blackie and work with it? Because Andrea is really keen to develop some regular programming, and it's important that we start those conversations. So the next 2 days are really about finding out about people's practice, what's informed by that practice, having conversations about the art form, the various different styles of dance that we're working in, looking at the spaces where creatives are able to develop their practice here in the city. And most of all, it is about networking, and hopefully we will get some more people through the doors because those conversations are key. And you being in the space is also key. So even though you'll be hearing and listening and participating, we really do want to hear your voices from the tables. So thank you for coming. Thank you to all the artists who have literally jumped to it with us fantastically in a really short space of time. Thank you for the team of Fiona and Tim. Fiona's doing the stage management and Tim's filming, and there is live streaming going on. We have got biographies, and I'm not sure if we've sent them out, which is really bad, but I'll try and sort that out for you. But without further ado, I am delighted to introduce Jennifer Jean Charles and Sherilyn Albert. And interestingly enough, we talk about kind of legacy and stories and spaces and places, and I met Jennifer at the very start of my career at Merseyside Dance Initiative, and Jennifer was in Bullies Ballerinas, and she was instrumental in developing key work with our Toxteth Youth Dance Group at the time. So our relationship goes back a long way, and she's also been instrumental in large-scale works for us. The Northwest Dance Link Up for the Cultural Olympiad. So she's got a place here in the city, and I'm sure she can tell you much more about that. But she's also got 2 particular works that are touring. And although this time round we couldn't bring a lot of touring works, I thought it was really important that Jennifer talks about the work that she's doing and how it's touring, and maybe people might be interested in booking it in the future. So I'll pass on to Jennifer and Shirley.
Thank you, Karen, and hello, everyone. It's just really great to be here. As Karen has said, I'm Jennifer, and I will let you, the next person, introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Sherilyn Albert. I'm a dance artist from London. I specialise in hip-hop and contemporary movement. I have my own dance company as well called Instigate Unknown, and we teach young people and we perform and we do workshops. and my involvement in Black Victorians. I started off in the R&D process as a performer, and then I joined just the beginning of the touring, and then I went on to become the rehearsal director when we got a new cast in.
Thank you, Sherilyn. So rather than do a big spiel about everything I've done, I'm just going to play a very quick video, about a minute, of my highlights from, it goes up to about 2019, so I'll start with that.
She has such a vivid imagination about how dance can work on screen.
Jenifer was the obvious choice to work on this project. My first commission with her was for Big Dance 2006 in Trafalgar Square.
Actually having Jenifer come in and work with us is going to be really interesting for us.
She has a way of getting each person to create themselves, take risk and try things out.
Thank you. Now I can relax. All right, so Black Victorians. Black Victorians came about when, in 2016, I saw an article in The Guardian. And it was an article called Black Victorians, and it was what it had was hundreds of portraits of Black and Asian people who had been photographed in Britain during the 1800s, in fact, at the beginning of photography in the 1850s onwards. When I dug deeper to find out what this was all about, what I found out was a curator called René Musai from the Autograph Gallery in Hoxton had spent about 3.5 years looking for the first evidence of Black and Asian people in Britain around the time of photography. She spent 3.5 years and found hundreds of photographs, and some of them hadn't even been developed, so they were still in their negatives. And it was from private collectors, from, museums where they were just hidden, just basically a story about Black and Asian people in Britain that had been airbrushed from society. I was moved, obviously, as a Black female, and I thought, I really want to tell this. I really want to know more. I'm not a historian. I won't, pretend I am. But what I am is a person who loves telling stories through movement. And what I felt was that this story needed to be told, not just to Black and Asian people, but to everyone in Britain, so that it really is understood that it's part of British history. And it's actually for that reason that I'm really quite pleased. To date, Black Victorians has, in its 4th year of touring, and it actually tours in outdoor arts festival around the UK, and it has gone internationally as well. And it means it's free, it means it's accessible to everyone, and it means I can spread the word faster. My ambition now is to take it indoors, and I have, the idea of taking it from outdoors in the summer and taking it into theatres in the winter, so fingers crossed that will happen. So how did it begin? People ask me, how did you go from looking at an article in 2016 to creating a piece? I spent a couple of years actually talking about this more than doing anything about it. And one day I decided to just have a bit of a network coffee with head of East London Dance at the time, Polly Risbridger. And she said, I think I should introduce you to Tim, who is head of research and development in historical royal palaces. This was in 2018. I met Tim Powell, and he said, actually, your conversation couldn't be more timely, because in 2019, it's the anniversary of Queen Victoria. And actually, we're going to be doing a whole exhibition in the historical royal palaces, and this actually sits very well. So as a result of that, I got my first set of funding to do 5 days of research and development, and Sherilyn was part of that. And we had these portraits actually displayed like this, really thinking, what is this piece about? So after 2019, we'd had 2 research and development periods, which I'll talk a bit more about later. And then what then happened is we had the pandemic, so everything went quiet. But then Bradley Hemmings from festival.org called me and said, Jennifer, how about doing a socially distanced, work in progress version of this? And I agreed, so we did that at the Garrison Church. And from there, I then applied to Without Walls, which is a consortium of outdoor festival directors who put a pot of money together and fund some artists, and I was one of the lucky ones to create the piece, which is now a 30-minute piece, as I said, outdoors. And it's the same piece I created in 2021 now, which has been touring for 4 years. So I just thought it was really, really important. As I thought about, where I wanted to go with that, I'd just like to show you a very short film. I've talked about working at historical palaces. What we actually did was worked in Hampton Court, and that's where we did our first 5 days of R&D with my dancers, my composers, my designer. I felt very lucky that I had these people on board from the very beginning. And then, as you can see, us working at it together. But what was really good, and something I didn't realize, is that my project coordinator at the time is also a film director. So while I was doing the rehearsals, she had her camera in the faces of all these people who had funded the project and would say, Tim, what do you think about this? Tim, what do you think about that? And after the R&D, when they all applauded and said, God, that was great, we really love this, I sent the film, and they could see themselves saying it again. So it was a no-brainer that when we said, can we do it again, I got the second lot of funding. So I'm just going to show you this short film, which she created of that first R&D.
Forming this partnership with artist director Jennifer Jean Charles has been a really interesting one to us, and we're all incredibly excited about where this project might go. So when Jennifer first met with us, the project was at such an early stage, and really she was just starting out exploring what it could be. It was a potential for us to join in discovery with her.
What I love about Jennifer's work with us is that looking at Black Victorians, it's a very beautiful way of letting these voices be heard, and it challenges us to start doing more research into those previously hidden areas.
Jennifer has approached this project by bringing in a whole range of different voices, sets of experience, visual designers, musicians, bringing all these voices together.
Identity is a really complex, difficult area to work in, and I'd heard about Jennifer's work, the choreography for the Olympics, the opening ceremonies, and it does have a really close connection to the work that we do at Autograph.
I had the great pleasure of taking Jennifer and her team around Victoria Woman and Crown. There aren't even any objects in the cases yet.
We took a look around the exhibition space and then heard from curator and a historian, Renee Masai.
I really enjoyed meeting Renee from Autograph and looking at her work, uncovering the images and the history.
I've introduced some of the stories behind the photographs in the Missing Chapter project, and it's been a conversation between myself, some of the stories and the history of these images, 3 dancers and a stage designer, Jennifer, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how these creative practices come together.
It's great. It's great. I mean, Jennifer's very inclusive. Everybody's got an opinion. Everyone's opinion is valued.
It's an opportunity to take music from really different worlds, putting them together and seeing what that can say about these historic communities, but also the country that we are today.
Every project that Jennifer works on is interesting for me as a filmmaker. She has such a vivid imagination about her movement, about how dance can work on screen. What interested me about this project, Black Victorians specifically, was how it makes history accessible.
It's all very inspiring, so I can actually work physically with the dancers, bring things in, fabric, crinolines, and we can see how they work with it.
Jennifer's exploring three very different styles, if you like, of dance. We're sowing seeds of ideas and allowing the dancers to explore and experiment.
She has a way of getting each person to create themselves, take risk and try things out. When things work that way, you get a really good result out of it.
This is the sort of thing that should really inform my own curatorial practice at Historic Royal Palaces.
The R&D after the first R&D, and as I said, having produced that film, I then was awarded the second lot of funding to do the second lot of R&D at Historical Royal Palaces, which was at Hampton Court, and we also performed at Kensington Palace. What I want to do next is just show you the beginning of how Black Victorians. So I've got Sherilyn here, and we're just going to get her in a position, and we're going to just do 2 minutes. I'm going to play a track. And I'll talk through at the same time. So give me a mo, please. Yep, here we go. So what I was interested in as a choreographer is just seeing a black person in a Victorian outfit and just wanting the audience to imagine a black person in the 1850s to early 1900s. And imagine what it must have felt like for that black person whose outfit back where they came from, for example, South Africa, would have been very different.
With an elbow
what it must have been like wearing those corsets, the restriction.
Held in like a book, secret. What more do you know? If you look this way, you can see great kingdoms crawling from beneath burning wood, interrupting dust, breaking the floor with a fallen glove. In order to watch, you must first be seen. Why such distance between us, little companion?
Imagine the stillness.
Tell me what you had. Who picked out what?
During the early days of photography,
on such a monotonous
sitting absolutely still.
Face this way, away from yourself. How obvious is this? The person we face, our faces away. Keep eyes on me, on them. Who put you here? Asked you to sit up. Could you identify their voice? Does it flash? Is any of this comfortable? Was it worth it?
And that was the beginning of the piece. That is the beginning of the piece with a cast of 4 dancers. What then happens next? By the way, the poet was Anthony Anaxagorou, who does amazing work, a British Cypriot poet who I've been following his work for years. He's very much into identity. And because I didn't want this to be just a black production, I wanted to resonate with globally. It was really interesting that my creative team and the people who had an input in it were not just people who identified as black, but people who were interested in identity, so that it couldn't just only fit into that black box. So the next thing I'm going to do is to ask Sherilyn. I'm going to talk about Nancy. So this is the first character that I chose to focus on. And this is Nancy. Let me just get back to the PowerPoint presentation. So the first character I chose to be inspired by was Nancy. And this woman is an unidentified sitter. So for a creative, that's fantastic because there is no story. So I could make up the story. So I tried to imagine her, and basically it really helped inspire the work. What I'm going to show you next is imagining Nancy has arrived from somewhere out of the UK and into Britain and is now being dressed into the Black Victorian outfit and what that must have felt like. So this is Nossi, one of the other dancers who plays Nancy, and this is her being dressed and assimilated into society. So this was outside Salisbury Cathedral. That was the first year of touring, 2021. So again, really I wanted to emphasize the idea of a black person arriving and being dressed. What we're doing here is she's been placed on the chair and trying to be in the exact position as the Nancy image behind. So the dancers are just fixing her, shaping her, getting her elbows into the right position, and finally making sure her head is tilted and finger in the right position, as if being prepared for the photograph. They stand back, they take a nod, she's done, and they can go. So that's the idea. Back to Nancy. A very interesting thing about this, which I'd love to tell you. The 3 images I chose to use as inspiration and to to use in my set, it was thanks to Autograph Gallery, who gave me permission every year to use those 3 images, and thanks to Renee, who actually organized it. After 3 years, Renee has now left Autograph, and I came to ask permission to use it for the 4th year of touring for free. And I was told, Renee's no longer here. The administration to get these portraits used for free is just too much work. Well, we haven't got the capacity for it. And then I just thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to destroy a £4,000 worth of set because I haven't got permission to use it. This is ironic. It's about me trying to tell my story, and I don't have a right to tell it. So I looked into where these images came from. Nancy belonged to Autograph, but they said they didn't have the time to really do the admin for it. And then Kalulu, a little boy, belonged to Getty Images, so I had to pay £430 to be able to use it for the next 3 years. And King belonged to the National Portrait Gallery, and I had to pay equivalent to use it for the next 3 years. And that's the situation I'm in today in order to tell this story to everyone. So it's just quite ironic. The good news is, in 2021, in Newbury, a white woman came up to me and said, Jennifer, I came to see Black Victorians because this is my great-great-aunt. And she had the image of the picture in her hands. And she said, this is my family. And she told me the story about her. And I just, honestly, I've still got goosebumps, whatever it is, thinking about it. I can't speak. Anyway, I was so moved. And I said, can I just take your number and let me just think about it? So, of course, this year, I rang her and said, Helen, any chance I could use your image for free, please? And she said, if Hetty's story can be told, yes, please, take the image and use it, which is fantastic, isn't it? So I actually had to change only one panel in the set, and now we have Hetty instead of our unknown sitter, Nancy. That's the name we gave her. So yeah, a really lovely story. So the next clip I want to show you is of, oh, hang on, before we do that. What I want to talk about is imagining the next, one of the sections in our, in the piece is Nancy actually derobing almost in protest. So she takes off her clothes. So yes, Sherilyn, she takes off her clothes and she just basically, I'll get the track, 1 second. And this is lovely because what you have is at first there is 3 dancers all in the same clothing, and then suddenly they hear something as if it's the voice of their ancestors.
Yo, ndaze ndawubona umhlola ebomini bami. Yintoni le umnxibileyo ntombazana ndini?
I might have to help you.
He wethu ungasuka ngaphaya elizweni lakho uza kwilizwe labelungu uzonxiba obububhanqa obunxibileyo. Kutheni na uphambene? Uphambene ntombazana ndini? Mamela apha khawukhulula. Khulula ezo mpahla. Ezo mpahla esizinxibayo ezo. Awuzazi impahla esizinxibayo thina? Khulula gogo. Khulula ezo mpahla ungakulingi uphambanise. Ungasuka ngaphaya eSouth uzonxiba impahla ngapha kude namazwe. Ungakulingi uzosiqhela ungasiphoxa. Hey, susiphoxa. Khulula ezo mpahla gogo. Khulula ezo sketi. Yintoni ngoku waba neempundu ezinkulu nee-hips ezinkulu? Awuzalwanga unje wena uthanda uphambene? Awuzazi impahla ezinxitywayo ngabantu bakokwenu? Hayi sana, I'm sure ooJola noMphakomo bayaqiga ngapha emangcwabeni wabo bathi hayibo nanku umntana ezosihlaza kude kangaka. Khulula ezo mpahla ungakulingi usiphambanise. Shini Thixo. Hayibo bawo. Hayibo kuyagwetwa nangoku. Khulula. Andifuni uva nix. Khulula ungazosiphoxa. Shini. Sis. Poo.
And that's a section which you see in the piece where all 3 dancers take off the Victorian outfit and then they, thank you, and then they go into a solo. Yeah, right, so I'm just going to move forward. Now this next section is the king. This is King Cetshwayo, a Zulu king, the very last Zulu king. Overthrown by the British and brought in exile to the UK. And what you're going to see now is a very short film of Danai doing, enacting the idea, what it must have felt like to be in power. He later goes on to do a solo where he has no power, but what I chose to show you today is him with his warriors. So imagining him in South Africa.
A stool, backdrops, with an elbow dominating a chair's neck. One frame followed by the next, held in like a book secret. What more do you know? If you look this way, you can see great kingdoms crawling from beneath burning wood, interrupting Dust, breaking the floor with a fallen glove.
That was Danai Harris doing that prompt solo, which I absolutely love. Okay, and so I just wanted to show you Kululu. This is the Kululu. That was the third and final image that I chose to be inspired by. And Sherilyn was actually there during the R&D, and we just started imagining what it might have been like for a little boy who is the child servant companion of Sir Stanley Morgan, explorer and journalist. I might have got that surname slightly wrong. Anyway, he didn't have a very long life. He died at the age of 12 in a waterfall with the explorer taking him around the world, but in East Africa. So Kululu didn't have a long life. And we just started thinking, didn't we, Sherilyn, what must it have been like in that photo? So could you just show us a couple of the motifs, the don't touch me, and then you'll see how I've put it finally in a bit of choreography. So if you just say it as well and just talk that through, please. Yeah, without music, yeah, and we go. Great, thank you. And then we used it, having Kalulu do his solo, we go into what we call sailing souls. I get this section is a bit of hope and protest. And Sherilyn's just going to really improvise some of the choreography in that bit because I might not get the right timing. Is that, where are we? He's still in, isn't he? Is it? Yeah? Okay. So this is a cast of all five dancers. The men and the women have skirts. Some people have asked, why do the men have skirts? Well, it is a design. I wanted 5 skirts and there were 5 bodies. That's all there was to it. So she's now really, we worked with this. This is 5 dancers. They're working in canon. Can we have a bit louder the music, please? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so she's doing, and don't touch me, don't touch me. Da 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 da. Don't touch me. Bah. Don't touch me. Stop. That defiance, and can there be change, maybe some hope. Go down into they start to think about the clothing, and then it comes up. I actually just liked this because I just like the look of the color, the black at the top and the African colors below, and it just looks really great with 5 dancers. So there's some things that's just about choreography, and then it's up to the audience to interpret it. She then faces the front, and then takes it down, so the face is revealed very slowly. So the 5 of them were looking really regal here. And then just go for it with the gestures. 5, 6, 7, 8, and. Choreography develops, and then they finally go down to the ground. So you're going to go slowly down. You take it down, just take it down, yeah. And then this is the act of defiance, really. Just thinking about the skirt and just thinking it's really time. It's just time. Do you need some help? Well, the skirt usually came off. Could you take it off? Sherilyn, she's the rehearsal director. She doesn't usually do this. That's it, that's it. Push, push, push. That's it. And she takes it, drops it, and then just looks forward. This is 5 of them. And then they stand up. Other section, which to finish it off, is what we call the waves, and it sounds like this. Yeah. and there's just the 5 dancers standing next to each other and just moving, and just imagining going back home. So it's got that sense of sea and journey, and we call it the wave section. And that's the end of the piece. That's the very, very end. Thank you, Sherilyn. Thank you. I thought you might be interesting. That's great. You might be interested in just seeing the cast that we have today, because some of the creatives have changed. So this is the final film, a very short film, of the dancers in rehearsal. Well, I really hope that was helpful. Yeah, what next for us? What we'd really like to do is to take this, as I said, indoors. So I'll be looking for partners who might be interested in helping me commission this and having it in theatres. I've got 2 sheets here where you can scan to get more information and biographies on all the artists, and also to tell you about my other show, which is a new show, Patois, and again, you can scan me and get the leaflet and see more about the artist and find out more. And Patois is really about a language that my mum spoke to me from the time I was a little girl, French Creole Patois from St. Lucia. She spoke to me in this language, so that's the language she still speaks to me today at the age of 92, and I reply in English. And in 2019, I had a moment, and in an international dance lab in Holland, and thought, hang on, everyone else has got another language. We're taking time to translate Polish, Russian, Dutch, you know, African, all sorts of languages. How can I say African? Of course, that doesn't make sense. But, you know, I mean, all these different languages that was being spoken. So I just wanted to speak my own, and I realized, actually, my language is French Creole Patois. So I did this whole monologue. And I was so moved that I decided that's my next piece. I want to do about a piece where, for all of us, for so many of us, we have these other languages that we never use. And it just goes, again, unidentified. So that's my next piece. That is my piece, Patois. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Sherilyn. I stuck to my 45 minutes.
You're a star. That's why we love you, Jennifer. Thank you so much. So now we're just going to take a short break so that people can look at the exhibition for a little bit, and then you wanted a little Q&A? Is that okay? So if you just want to take a little bit of time just to explore these wonderful photographs, and then we'll just have a short Q&A if anybody's got, as I know I've got some burning questions as ever. So been taking notes. So thank you all very much. Please just come and mingle. Hello, thank you. Okay, so we'll just do a very brief Q&A, and we've just got a very spooky moment here because this is your main lady. So one of our main ladies, the photograph, was filmed on Bold Street in Liverpool, which is just down the road. So, and we still don't know who this, unidentified sitter is. So that's pretty wonderful. Well found. So I'll just hand over to, has anybody got any questions? I'll start with one. I was interested in the choices that you made about the men dressing the woman, and what was that about? Was it a historical thing for you, or?
Well, historically, we know men are in skirts, are in dresses, but that really wasn't my intention. It was literally as a creative, I had 5 skirts, beautiful orange African skirts and the black ones on top, and I just wanted that picture. So sometimes it really wasn't a deep thinking thing. It was more a creative choice, and in this case it was. But I have had parents coming up to me saying, "Why are the boys in skirts?" That's the thing. And one boy who came to see in Newbury then came to see again at the Hat Fair because he was so inspired that boys were dancing in skirts. And it gave him permission to wear a skirt because his dad said he wants to wear, women's clothes, as they call it. And we're struggling with this, but you've just given him permission by showing these amazing men in skirts. So I thought, okay, great.
I've got a question. You were saying that you have to pay to use the photographs. What happens? Because you said you'd paid 400 and something till, 20, whatever. What happens when that finishes?
I'll have to pay again.
Yeah, it's just
I'll have to pay again, but what I'm going to try to do is to establish a relationship with these organizations. I don't know who in Getty Images, but I can probably speak to someone in National Portrait Gallery. I just think I didn't get the right person. Yeah. And I think there would be someone there who's doing outreach, who's doing education, who might say, not only do you have permission, hopefully, but let's work on a project together. Let's expand this. So that's what I'm hoping for. It was just a bit of a shock because I just, wasn't ready for it. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely, because I just feel that this is so important in terms of our history.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an exhibition in a box. It's 32 images, and I'm a guardian of this exhibition in a box, but there are others. There are copies, and you can contact Autograph if you're an organization and if you want to tell that story, because that's what these exhibition in a box is for. That's what it's for.
So when are you bringing it back to the Blackie?
Oh, anytime you're ready.
We'll talk.
Thank you.
Hi, I just want to, I love this performance. I'm so glad we've got to get an insight into it because I couldn't come to London to see it. And I was just been chatting then to say how important this work is, because I hope it's going to schools, because still my young boy is now 6 and we talk about Black History Month, and unfortunately we still go to the slave trade and and just to see that the history of Black people in the UK, and to have these images be shared and to have it be brought to life by dance and music. I'm just really inspired. That's the first thing. I just want to say thank you for doing this, and I hope that it gets to go to my son's school. I will definitely be sharing it. They've got the British Ballet going in there, which is amazing. But and the other thing is, I love your work. I've sent you an email, and
Brilliant.
But I think what I love about the collaboration that you talked about, and I think for those of us who are artists and
you've got lots of great contacts, Jennifer, which are great. And when you said, oh, the head of such and body contacted me, but what advice would you give to a smaller organisation or an individual artist to start those collaborations that can really make that work, the impact of the work grow and be seen by others? Because it's not easy. Yeah.
I would say that the thing about me is since Facebook started, I've always had a bit of a protest. And whilst I'm on social media, my thing is FaceTime, face-to-face. That's what I'm interested in. I've spent most of my career saying, hi, why don't we just meet and have a coffee? And I'm really interested in non-transactional conversation, so it doesn't have to be guess a job. It's really about tell me exactly what you do. What are you interested in? What's your burning desire? And I'll then tell you mine. And if they match, then that's fantastic. I take that risk. So when I met that person at Historical Royal Palaces, I had no idea. I just knew that it was going to happen, but I didn't know how it was going to happen. So I spend a lot of time getting on a train, going to see people and saying, let's just have a coffee and a chat. Because I'm actually really interested in what other people are doing as well as what I'm doing. And when it matches, when it makes sense, when it's the right timing, then it's really exciting. So I'd say for any small organization, just keep going out and talking to people. And also really be interested in other people's work. And I know for artists, it's really expensive to get to go and see everything. But as much as possible, oh, you're doing that event. You haven't got a code for a discount. Yeah, just beg, steal and borrow, and make time to go and see other people's work because it's really important. It's not just about me, it's about the industry. So I really, spend time doing that. And this time it paid off. Sometimes it doesn't. I actually applied to the Arts Council when I first developed this project, and I was rejected at that point. And I just thought, it's okay, because I'm going to do it anyway. That was just one avenue. Because I know there's lots of, applications on the table. I've been there making those decisions myself. So I know how hard it is. But I just knew it's bigger than that. It's about me wanting to tell a story. And I'm going to find the right person to tell that story to. And that was really, really important. I remained positive. And I suppose that's the other thing, just being forever hopeful. And the other thing I want to say about your son and school is that I'm really pleased that the BBC, who did a Dance Passions programme for Liverpool during the Eurovision year, they're now doing another one in Swansea, Dance Passion, and they invited us to do a short extract of Black Victorians on film. So they filmed us. And at some point, that film will come out. And I'm wanting to use that to then talk to them about doing the full-length piece, because what I want is for schools to have access to a really good film of Black Victorians, and then I'm ready to do the education pack that goes with it, and that's the support I want as well, because I want the children to see this, and I don't want it to only be in Black History Month. I just think it should just be readily available and shouldn't be expensive. Yeah, parents have come up to me and said, oh, can we have this in my school? And I'm thinking, well, I've got to pay these black dancers, and they can't do it for nothing, and it's too expensive for schools, so how else are we going to make this possible? So it's, again, conversations. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Sorry. Jean, yeah, I do apologise, because when you started your presentation, I was downstairs trying to sort out myself from my little workshop. But the question I want to ask you, it may be stupid, but I was told by Maxine when it came to the portraits, each time you have to pay a certain amount of money. Did you ever kind of contact families, whether here or the Caribbean, to see if they had portraits going back?
Yeah, well, so the bit you missed is that these portraits are of Black and Asian British people. They were photographed in the UK. And the portraits, the three that I chose, they're the ones that belonged to organisations. And I've had to pay 2 organisations to be able to use them. But the third one, thankfully, was from a white family, and that's Hetty. And this white female came to our show, and she had this picture in a frame, and she said, this is my great-great-great-grandmother. So when I found that I had to start paying for these images, I rang her and said, can I use this one? So I had to rework my set, and now it has this image on it. which is free. So that's good news. The other two I have to pay for again in 3 or 4 years' time.
Are you still searching for people who have
Well,
pictures?
I would like Black British, so not.
Yeah, people, yeah.
Yes, that would be fantastic. That would be amazing. But I love the stories of King Cetshwayo and Kalulu. I really would ideally like to keep them because it's also a nice variety: a male, a female, unidentified, and a child. I just really like the combination. Yeah.
Always am. I had a question about how the experiences and lives of the people who you portray through this piece of work came through to you, both as a creator of the piece and also to the dancers as well. How through your experience of bringing this alive did these experiences come through? Because I'm really intrigued as to how their life was like and how they felt. I was wondering if any of this came through both in the creation and the research and for yourself as well.
So I'm going to say, first of all, that, again, we're not historians, so we don't have all the answers. But I think, Sherilyn, are you happy to just talk about how it inspired you and added energy in the space for you?
Yeah, I think intrigue is a really good word. I think it was that. It's looking at the pictures and automatically feeling a connection to some of them. So it was those three. I in particular picked out Kalulu because he was a child, and I thought, why is there a child here, and why are they a companion? And it's I think being inspired is also a really good word, because that "don't touch me" motif came from the idea of, like, this child would have been dressed up in this clothing and he looks really uncomfortable. Even the toy in his hand isn't really fitting. And we associate toys with children, but that's not something he's used to playing with where he would have come from. But yeah, I think we did take a lot of time looking, and we spoke about the South African choir as well that came. And so also realizing that these Black people came under different circumstances. There's people who are royalty as well. So some may have been more comfortable or felt more welcomed, or been more excited to be in Britain than others. So I think we tried to encapsulate that in the piece as well, because there's a part where we free ourselves of the this rope and restriction and kind of celebrate. And then there's the king as well, who looks extremely proud as he sat there, and we've encapsulated his strength and also the warriors behind him, even though they're in a foreign land, being still really connected. You can still see from certain people they still connected to their own heritage. So I think it was finding the balance for us between those who have kind of come here under unfortunate circumstances like Kalulu and been forced into these clothing and trying to fit in, and others who actually maybe came here and was really proud and was like of status and was like, you will see me as I am. That's what it felt like for me as a performer, kind of balancing between the two.
Was there anything in the process where it started to break down time and space? I know, for example, through my work I do a lot of work with capoeira, and through the ritual of capoeira and through time and time being in that space and relating to the history and to the culture and to the stories that come through the songs and music of capoeira. In this case, it's the pictures and the history. Was there any of that sense that it started to connect more closely and the experiences that some of these people might have had started to come through and create a relationship through the artistic process?
I remember, not for me personally, when we started this, I was a bit younger. I was just coming out of university. One of the dancers, he was of South African heritage, and I know he had a very visceral experience exploring, looking at one of the images in particular, and he just said he just kept on feeling his ancestors, his mother in particular, coming through to him in the movement, and him even being in the skirt and the movement, and he could feel like his hips were her hips moving through space. So I do feel like that was an experience that we also got to draw on and add into our choreography. So.
Thank you very much. So just another round of applause, please, for Jennifer and Sherilyn for a really informative kind of sort of a really interesting look into the intriguing and inspiring creative process that you've brought to that. And I look forward to Patois as well, because again, one of the conversations we're having, and especially with Ivy tomorrow, Groundation, it's all about language, and it's all about how we use that language to reconsider who we are. So we're looking at the past, but we're also in the present, moving forward into the future, and that's just a great example. So thank you both very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming. So now Frances Angle's in the room. Frances from Movement Angle is going to be delivering a somatic dance workshop downstairs in the studio. So those of you who are up for feeling the flow, it's not going to be... Yeah. So it'll just be something nice and reflective. You maybe want to just come and... some people may just want to watch, but, it would be wonderful to have some of you join in. Otherwise, have another little look at this exhibition and the other one that's in the gallery. Thank you. Oh, and just to say, this afternoon, there is a workshop supposed to be with Iona Waite, and Felix and James are going to stand in because Iona can't come, so there'll be an African dance and drumming workshop at 3:15. And then I'm going to finding a way of having some kind of conversation with this wonderful Carolyn Hines from the Jiving Lindy Hoppers, who's also featured downstairs on the history of black dance. Thank you.